I just interviewed the ex-chief liaison officer of the DEA's most wanted drug lord across the 80s and the 90s. Let me get there. In the previous weeks, I've been spending a lot of time sifting through the conflict economy and the history of ethnic armed organizations in Myanmar, because I wanted to understand the correlation between the rebel mentality and the trade of narcotics stemming from the Golden Triangle, the leading global locus of opium production and one of the least government-regulated zones in the world. It all started this summer when I was exposed to the journey of one of my most inspiring figures I will never have the chance to talk with, Tiziano Terzani, Italian journalist and Southeast Asia correspondent. In 1993, Terzani was land traveling through the Shan State in Eastern Myanmar to keep up with his promise of not flying for a full year. There, he got invited to the court of Khun Sa, the leader of the Mong army and arguably the most wanted kingpin of the US Drug Enforcement Administration at the time. Reporting estimated over 60% of all heroin in the US coming from Khun Sa's backyard. But when Terzani asked the kingpin's motives, his answers were simple, cutting, revelatory for the independence of the Shan people. Not what you would expect from the most vilified character by the US press of the time, right? Today, the same structural incentives persist, but the commodities have changed. New scam centers, meth and ketamine production and human trafficking are grounded in the same motives fueling the opium and heroin market back in Khun Sa's days. If I were to go to the Shan State tomorrow with two of my best friends and say that we now grow our own garden of poppies for heroin consumption, how much would I actually get in one season?
So 1 acres of land, you can get like 10 kilogram of raw opium. Usually the opium field size for individual household is that, because opium farming is quite very labor intensive. So with that family working, they can only manage like 1 to maximum 2 acres of opium field. So it means that they would get annually you would get like 10 kilogram to 20 kilogram of raw opium. It's about like 5 to 10,000 US dollar. It's not the next profit yet, because you have all the investment. You have to give to the people who have who come to collect money from you. So I think they survive on like maybe like 2 to 3,000 US dollar per season. Enough for family in the village that can survive. Buying food, buying clothes and all the daily necessity, and sending their kid to school.
Sai highlighted that 70% of all the farmers' revenue comes from growing opium, which is then taken by traders, refined by the militia-sponsored actors, and exported to local or foreign parties. Khun Sa was taken down in 1996. Meanwhile, the UNODC tried implementing some initiatives for crop substitution. Nothing changed. Why? Well, because the problem wasn't Khun Sa, he was the symptom, as much as ethnic militia-sponsored narcotic production in Shan State is today. The root of the issue is found in one word: culture. So I further narrowed down my research because I wanted somebody who belonged to the same culture I was investigating. So I squeezed my network until I found him.
Family, my neighbors, my friends, my relatives, many of them were involved in the struggle for independence. I was only about 11 years old when the first big fight took place. And I wanted to join it, but I was still too small. They said that, you can go when you are as tall as the rifle.
February 12, 1947, roughly 1 year before Khun Sa's birth, the Panglong Agreement stipulated that the soon-to-be independent Burma, as the entirety of Myanmar used to be called, led by General Aung San, would have guaranteed in 10 years the right of secessions to the Shans.
The Shan State and Burma, they were different countries under the British rule. When the British decided to grant independence, they wanted all of them to be united. So we held a conference in Shan State, which the Burmese leaders, the Chin leaders, and the Kachin leaders, they also joined. The agreement was shared rule. We will rule the whole country together. But there is also self-rule. But we will run our own internal affairs. Under the British, we have enjoyed our own financial autonomy. It must continue. There must be human rights and democracy.
Matter of fact, the first president of the Union of Burma was Sao Shwe Thaik, formerly the last Shan prince from the region's feudal era. However, in 1962, the coup led by General Ne Win destroyed federalism, abolished the secession cause, and made Shan independence legally impossible. Khun Sa Jayen tells me that the last straw that convinced him to join the revolution was when the government forced the Burmese language and customs on his community.
We were not allowed to learn Shan, and we were forced to wear the Burmese skirt. I like that very much. I still like it, but I'm not wearing it anymore. Not now. Because if I wear it now, my villagers will drive me out.
So in 1969, Khun Sa Jayen goes underground and joins the Shan United Revolution Army under General Khun Sa until 1985, when his group merged with the Shan United Army led by Khun Sa. This officially forms the strongest militia in Shan State, the Mong Thai Army.
As someone who was working for him, how was that? How was your experience directly under his command?
He was serious. He was almost always with the troops, especially those who were training. And he used to visit them, cheer them up, dance with them, and all that. It was not just for show, because the media wasn't there all the time. He thought that he should retake Shan State while there is still the opportunity.
In those years, hell descended upon East Myanmar. Some armed organizations fight against the military junta. Others side with the military junta to conspire against different rebel groups. Some groups and the government fight against the remnants of the Kuomintang, which fled from China to Myanmar in 1949 after the defeat against the Chinese Communist Party. Others side with the Kuomintang to profit from the conflict. War is everywhere, and selling opium is the way to finance it.
Our weakness then and now is that we haven't been able to form a cohesive army, a combined army, and also a combined political force. Had we been able to do that, and we could assure all our neighbors that this country will still be in one piece after the military government has gone, we would have stood a big chance. But still, we haven't achieved that until now.
At the time, poppy crops had been in Myanmar for almost a century. They were brought there from India when Myanmar fell under British control in the 19th century. In this period, opium became part of the local culture. It was fairly common to have opium houses in town, and farmers were using their seeds for cooking. However, one constant remained. Even though opium was tolerated for recreational use, it remained formally illegal, therefore not usable for healthcare and medical purposes. This is because the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs, stipulated in 1961, provided an international regulatory model for medical and scientific use of narcotics that couldn't really fit the chaotic political scenario in which Shan opium was cultivated. To put it in perspective, imagine growing up in endless poppy fields, but having to import medicines containing opium from abroad. It's paradoxical, to say the least. Between the mid-50s and the mid-70s, the US and France fought communism in Vietnam, but they also supported anti-communist tribes and militias in the Golden Triangle.
To fight the communists, you need an army. An army must have guns. So to have guns, you must have money. So in this mountainous area, opium is the only money. I think nowadays that ethnic armed organization, they still follow that logic to fight against the government. So they need a lot of resources. The only resources they can have in the past is only opium.
In that period, US soldiers in Vietnam were known to consume opium-derived heroin, and armed organizations in Shan State were supplying their own forces by selling it. The US are flooded with heroin, increasing the number of addicts and deaths. This leads President Nixon to implement the Drug Enforcement Administration in 1973.
The United States wasn't in this region to eliminate narcotics. They were here with the CIA. Their main purpose was to prevent communism from occupying these countries. However, it failed in the Vietnam War, but still it found a new reason to be in the region: drugs. The DEA was set up. That's why Khun Sa even said DEA is CIA. CIA is DEA, they are the same. And nowadays, drugs are still around, while Khun Sa has been gone for nearly 20 years now. And we have a new one, the online scamming. And America has set up this scamming center strike force. It's the same. The real reason is not to eliminate the scam centers. The United States has a reason to be here. That's what we, according to our own past experience, I think we are right.
In this scenario, the rebel, drug lord, freedom fighter, whatever you want to call him, Khun Sa, is labeled as the main cause of the death of hundreds of US citizens. But was it actually the case? Khun Sa pledged that the motives behind these operations were purely for the legitimate independence of the Shan State. Was he telling the truth? Well, across the 60s and the 70s, Khun Sa had at times been granted tolerance by the Burmese government for his narcotic operations. In exchange, he had to fight against other Shan insurgent groups.
The main contrasting views about Khun Sa is that, sure, he was the main freedom fighter during the 80s and the 90s for the Shans, but before, he was actually fighting against them while he was, refining opium in the backyard, and the Burmese government was kind of closing an eyes over it. Do you really believe that his main motives were Shan liberation and Shan independence?
Yes, if we were only for riches, personal riches, why should he build up this big army? He didn't need a few thousand would be okay, but this is at least 20,000, which is more than enough. About 2,000 would be okay for him, I would say. So he was serious about Shan independence.
In 1989, he even proposed to eradicate all the crops he was controlling and sell out all his raw opium to the US. In return, he expected over $500 million in foreign investment, developing funding, and UN-assisted crop substitution programs. Needless to say, his proposals were met with rejections from the US Congress because America doesn't make deals with criminal warlords. But also because it was virtually impossible to ensure his business wouldn't have continued anyway. Okay, he might not have landed the biggest deal in history, but the investment and development he was planning to make for the Shans were actually done by him years before, when in the 70s he was developing his narcotic empire in northern Thailand. His base was in the remote village of Ban Ter Thai, and once Khun Sa died in 2007, locals organized a memorial for him because he helped them build roads, schools, and a hospital. All done by and with dirty money, of course. This is the same that happens nowadays in the Golden Triangle, where the local economy literally runs on shadow networks.
If you don't have peace, I think it's quite very difficult for farmers to think about other crop or other income opportunities. Even in terms of fighting, one of the farmers said, even in terms of fighting, the traders still manage to come to buy the opium in the village. They still can sell their opium.
Households still cultivate opium because its price doesn't change as much as other crops. By selling methamphetamines, local ethnic armed organization can afford to build paved roads, small clinics, schools, and even markets.
One quite very strange thing in Myanmar is the ethnic leaders who involved in that trade. They invest in the local economy, like building highways, gas station, or supermarket and hotels.
Just to give you some numbers, the UNODC estimates about $80 billion with a B in profit per year from the region's illicit economy.
Since independence, we have been in conflict, and conflict is supported by conflict economy. And when you say conflict in economy, it involves licit economy and also illicit economy. Both of them are there. However, when you are governed, you have some advantage. You can place the blame on other people.
So I dare to say that the story of Khun Sa shows the paradox of the illicit narcotic business, and especially it shows the hypocrisy of all the parties involved with it. On one hand, you have an opportunistic double agent who has tricked both his allies and his enemies, the middleman of a deadly trade of narcotics, but also somebody who has built villages, helped families survive, and fought for the recognition of an ethnic group that had been suppressed. On the other hand, sure, you have formal governments, anti-drug operations, but also a propagandistic narrative that only looks for scapegoats to hang rather than dealing with the core of the issue. You have intransigence and pride preventing deals from occurring with individuals that, yeah, might be criminals, but they also represent a group of people that have been ignored, and when ignored, leads to the same consequences that we are dealing with today. So, as Khun Sa Jayen points out, the road to better times starts with political agreement. Therefore, stability.
If we can reach agreement on the political side, political issues, then we will be able to deal with these symptoms, drugs and other things too. These days, I don't care about independence, federalism, democracy, or anything. I only care about human rights. If there is human rights, we can live anywhere, under dictatorship, under any system of rule. But if there isn't any human rights, then it is useless to say we would have to fight. The challenge is to make this world safe for and from ethnicity. And to do it, the basic requirement is human rights.
This video was sponsored by nobody. It's just me, myself, and the media lab of the university where I study. So if you want more stories and interviews about conflicts, supply chain, crime, illicit trade, please consider subscribing, making a donation to the channel, and signing up to my newsletter. See you next time.